Tune or no tune? That is the question. Alright everybody, as always, thanks for stopping by to another video today. Today we're going to tackle the age-old question of, do you need to tune your Harley Davidson motorcycle with only a slip-on exhaust system? Now this is a pretty common question that I see all over the place: Instagram, YouTube, internet forums, out in public, people talking about, do you need to tune your Harley with only a slip-on exhaust? And it can be really hard to get good information when asking that question due to all the different products, brands, theories, ideas out there, people trying to sell you all their different tuners and programs and systems, all of that stuff. It can be kind of hard to dig and sift through all those different items to really get a good, clear answer of what you really need to do if you really need to tune your Harley with just a slip-on exhaust, because there's so many different factors out there, so many different variables. Today we really want to dive into this and ask and answer the question, do you actually need to tune your Harley Davidson motorcycle if you just have a slip-on exhaust muffler system on the bike? And that's where I'll ask for a little bit of assistance from everybody out there, because obviously I'm no mechanic, but I have done enough research and had enough educated conversations on the topic to speak to it a little bit. But that's where I'll be curious to get some of the feedback from everybody out there. Go ahead and answer the question down in the comments. Do you need to tune a Harley Davidson motorcycle with just a slip-on exhaust? Again, like I said, there could be so many different factors to that, but we're talking about just slip-ons, okay? So just the slip-on mufflers. Answer that question down in the comments. Let me know what your experience has been with some of the different products and slip-ons, exhaust system you guys have used out there, and kind of create a little bit of a forum down there to help anybody else that finds this video, to let them know what the right answer is, because I'm going to go through my experience and what I believe to be the right answer through some of the research that I have gone through. But again, drop it down in the comments. Do you need to tune your Harley Davidson motorcycle with the slip-on exhaust? Let's create a nice forum down there for everybody to get some answers down there, get the feedback, get the experiences that you all have had when it comes to different exhaust systems, tuning, and the route you need to go with a slip-on exhaust. So before we get to some of my experiences and my answer on that, we're going to talk about a little bit of defining some of the terms that's going to go into that. So obviously, look, if you look at your motor, for example, you're going to have, in layman's terms, your motor. Obviously with Harley, we're talking V-twins. You've got your air box where the air comes in. You've got your header pipes that come down out of the motor. And then finally, you would have your slip-on exhaust mufflers that attach to the end of the header pipe, which is mainly what we're talking about today for our slip-on exhaust system. So again, that question, if you're only replacing that slip-on exhaust muffler at the back end of that header pipe, do you need to tune the bike? So then again, when we talk about the tunes, I'm sure everybody is familiar with all the different ways they can program and tune the ECM of their bike. You've got the Vance & Hines FP3 tuners, DynoJet, Fuel Moto, all those different brands out there that you can plug into your ECM, get the fuel and air ratio mixtures properly tuned to make sure the bike is running as effective and efficient as it possibly should be. So the factors that go along with that is when you're changing those air to fuel ratios, that's when you really are going to kind of need that tune. Throw a fuel pack on there, get the ECM tuned properly to get those air fuel ratios and those mixtures properly aligned. So like I said, that the bike is running optimized and efficient and effectively for the best performance of the bike. But then again, is it necessary with just the slip-on exhaust? And once again, let me just preface this by saying I'm no mechanic, but I have done a little bit of the research, had some of the conversations, and so far what I would say is the general consensus tends to be that when you are just changing your exhaust to a slip-on muffler, a slip-on exhaust at the back of that header, you do not need to tune the motorcycle. So basically the general consensus seems to be that when you are just changing that slip-on, the air is not changing enough to need to reprogram the ECM of the bike. In most cases, what you'll see is that that computer is efficient enough and the air displacement is not changing enough with a slip-on that is going to be able to compensate and make up for any minor changes in airflow with just a slip-on. And like I said, that's where we see this question pop up a lot of the times. Is I've had the question on YouTube, Instagram, all those different forums where people say, you know, the dealer told me this, they told me that, told me if I throw a Screaming Eagle slip-on or a Vance & Hines slip-on my bike when I get it, then I'm going to have to go ahead and tune it. From everything that we have seen and what we know, you do not need to tune your bike with just the slip-on exhaust. Now, is it possible that even if you did throw those slip-ons and go ahead and tune it, are you going to get a little better performance, a little bit more efficiency out of the engine? Yes, that could be the case. But with just the slip-on, the general consensus really seems to be that you are okay and do not need to worry about that tune if you're throwing those slip-ons on there. Now, when do we start to see those factors change? Because like I said, the ECMs on these bikes are efficient enough to notice those changes and kind of compensate within a certain variance. But the real tuning comes in when you start to change the airflow more drastically, like when you change out that air intake, for example. So once you do a slip-on and then you change to an aftermarket air intake where you're flushing a lot more air into the system, that is when you're going to want to go ahead and do that tune, because you've got more air coming in. You've got to get those ratios mixed up better. You've got to get that running at the proper leanness and richness for the fuel and air to properly optimize the bike. So I will give you guys some of my examples of what I have done. Obviously, I have a 2019 Harley Davidson Iron 1200, and if you want to call this my own test case study here, when I first got the bike, I went ahead and put the 3.5-inch twin slash slip-ons from Vance & Hines on that bike. Just the slip-ons. I didn't change any of the air, any of the headers, anything like that. The bike ran perfect for about a year and a half with those slip-ons on. Absolutely no tune. It ran 100% perfect. Now, what I did do after that, after about 2 years total with the bike, I went ahead and put the Arlen Ness aftermarket big air sucker air cleaner on there. And that's when I went ahead and also bought the Vance & Hines FP3 fuel pack, because now we had that more airflow coming into the engine, into the motor with changing out the air box. So now we've got the slip-ons, the air cleaner changed out, went ahead and tuned it with the FP3 tuner, and still running very well, very efficient, very optimized. Pretty happy with the way the bike has performed. Next up with my second bike, the 2022 Harley Davidson Street Bob. That bike also has just slip-ons on it, the Cobra Neighbor Haters. Also, no tune. Runs perfectly fine, runs perfectly efficient. Now, like I said, could you tune that afterwards, maybe get a little bit more performance, have it run a little bit different? Yeah, of course you probably could, but like I said, just slip-ons on my Milwaukee 8 2022 Harley Davidson Street Bob. No tune on that, just the slip-ons, and that has been running perfectly efficient and effective. So then next up, where you start to get into some of that gray area is when you start to think about a full exhaust system. So slip-ons, obviously, like I said, they're just slipping onto the back of the header. When we get into those full systems now, you have changing out the airflow of the headers all the way into the exhaust, like a 2-into-1, for example. That is where the gray area comes in. I haven't found as much good research on that, but it does also seem to be that if you change out into a full system, whether it's a full 2-to-2 or a full 2-into-1, you also don't need to tune that. As long as you're keeping that stock air cleaner on there, it appears that the air is not changing enough to need to throw that tune on. But then once again, you go ahead and throw a new air box on there, change up the air to fuel ratios. That's where it appears you're gonna most likely want to go ahead and tune the bike. And then even further, obviously, once you get into some of that more advanced engine work, the stage 2s, 3s, cams, big bore kits, all of that is going to change the engine so much. That's 100% obviously where you're going to need professional tuning, whether it's dyno tuning or some of those good fuel packs that you can throw on the bike and tune the ECM yourself. So like I said, wanted to go ahead and use this quick one to kind of create that open forum, answer that question, clearly get that info out there that you really do not need to tune your motorcycle, your Harley Davidson motorcycle, with just the slip-on exhaust. Again, there's all those different variables, different factors, full systems, changing out your air intakes, all those different things where then you're going to start to want to consider it more seriously. To answer that age-old question, if you are just changing out the slip-ons, the mufflers to your bike, you are good to go with no tune of that motorcycle with just the slip-ons. So like I mentioned previously, go ahead and drop it down in the comments. Let me know what your experiences have been. Have you tuned with just slip-ons? Do you think you need to? Have you heard otherwise also? Because what I really want to do, again, like I said, create that open forum down there. Anybody that kind of stumbles across this video, make sure that they can kind of get that info sound off down there. They can answer any questions back and forth amongst everybody down in the comments. Drop your experiences down there. I'll be curious to see what everybody else's feedback, and again, what that general consensus is, because from everything that I have seen is you don't need to tune the bike with that setup. So of course, that is going to wrap this one up for now. Make sure you go ahead and like this video, drop your comments down there, and subscribe to the channel to make sure you stay up to date with everything we have going on motorcycle related around the city of Philadelphia. And as always, make sure you ride safe out there, guys. It's the Moto Jawn. We'll see y'all on down the road. Peace.